The debate on the 1 year quota has been revived in Tamil Nadu. Data shared by the state government under the Right to Information Act shows that without an exclusive internal reservation, members of the 1 year community would stand to benefit when it came to representation in higher education institutions and government jobs. The Pattali Makkal Katchi, however, is disputing this contention. What is this controversy on quota all about? Vanakkam, this is T. Suresh Kumar. Thank you for joining me in this episode of the Hindu Focus Tamil Nadu. Last week, the Tamil Nadu Department for Backward Classes, Most Backward Classes and Minorities Welfare shared certain data under the RTA Act. The figures of the government threw up some interesting interpretations. As per this, the Vanniyars led the MBC and the denotified communities when it came to representation in higher education and government jobs. According to this data, within the 20% quota that has been given for the most backward classes and the denotified communities, the Vanniyars had a higher proportion of representation when it came to professional degrees in undergraduate programs and postgraduate programs such as MBBS, BDS and the law degree courses. Besides, it said the Vanniyars had greater representation compared to the other most backward classes and the DNCs in government jobs for which recruitment was done by agencies such as the Tamil Nadu Public Service Commission, the Medical Recruitment Board and the Teachers Recruitment Board. This data has led to the interpretation that the Vanniyakula Kshatriyas, essentially a grouping of 7 subcastes, would lose out in terms of reservation if they were given an exclusive 10.5% reservation within the MPC quota. On the other hand, if they continue to compete for government jobs and representation in higher education within this 20% quota, then they would stand to gain. Such an interpretation per se is not new. In fact, nearly 4 years ago, one of the senior journalists of the Hindu, T. Ramakrishnan, had represented this viewpoint that prevailed among sections of the bureaucracy in Tamil Nadu. The civil servants felt that given that the Vanniyars constituted 13% of the overall state population as per the 1985 Ambasankar Commission report, they would stand to lose out if they were given internal reservations. They felt that any internal reservation will actually proportionally bring down the representation of the Vanniyars in terms of overall population to about 8.33%. However, the Pattali Makkal Katchi founder Ramdas and his son and party president Anbumani Ramdas have strongly disputed such an interpretation. They have argued that the government has selectively leaked incorrect data through the RTA Act. The party has now asked the state government to release a white paper on caste-based representation of government employees who were recruited after 1989 and similar data for students who were enrolled in higher education institutions after 1989. Anbumani Ramdas has in fact contended that the data shared by the state government in respect of Group 1 officers in Tamil Nadu is skewed. While the PMK leader has acknowledged that there are several Vanniyars holding the post of deputy collector, his argument is that these officers were all promotees who had joined the government service in lower ranks. And given this fact, as deputy collector, they will get a service of only 2 years before they superannuate. According to the PMK leader, among the 109 top police officers in Tamil Nadu in the rank of DIG and above, that is DIG to the rank of DGP, just one of them belonged to the 1 year community. Likewise, while Tamil Nadu had 123 secretary level officers in the bureaucracy, only one of them was a 1 year and he too is a promotee IAS and not a direct recruit. His contention is that had there been internal reservation for the Vanniyars in the past 2 decades or so, then by now at least 10 to 15 IAS officers would have been there in the cadre of secretary level officers. The 1 year quota has always remained a very sensitive issue in Tamil Nadu. In fact, to understand this, you need to go back in time and dig a bit deeper into the history or politics of Tamil Nadu. In the late 1980s, the 1 year Sangam, a caste organization, had led a intensive agitation seeking 20% reservation for 1 years in state government jobs and 2% reservation for 1 years in central government jobs. This agitation had turned violent and even led to a police firing in 1987, which subsequently led to the death of 21 agitators. In fact, for 1 week in September 1987, North Tamil Nadu was cut off from the rest of the state as agitators had felled huge trees along the highways to serve as roadblocks. It was this agitation that prompted Karunanidhi, who returned to power after 13 years in 1989, to create a separate subgroup called the most backward classes. What Karunanidhi did was he carved out 115 communities from among the OBCs and created a new division called the most backward classes and the denotified communities. This grouping was given a separate 20% reservation under the category of MBC and DNCs, and the Vanniyars remained one of the main beneficiaries of this quota. The PMK is a successful political offshoot of the Vannia agitation and the Vanniyar Sangam. In fact, Vanniyars now constitute a very strong and powerful vote bank which no mainstream party could afford to overlook or ignore. Despite the 20% MBC quota, over the years the PMK had argued that Vanniyars were underrepresented in government services and higher education institutions. Consequently, the PMK leaders had launched several agitations demanding exclusive 20% reservation for the Vanniyars. To please the PMK ahead of the last assembly elections in 2021, the then Edappadi Palaniswamy government had enacted a Special Reservation Act. This legislation provided for 10.5% internal reservation for the Vanniyars among the MBC and DNC quota. This Special Reservation Act, however, was set aside by the Supreme Court as unconstitutional. The court said that this act was passed on the basis of antiquated data. There was no quantifiable data to justify that the Vanniyars were relatively backward from among the MBCs and the DNCs. The Supreme Court had also held that this law violated the principle of fundamental equality among the MBC communities. Politically, catering to the Vannia quota demand is like walking on a razor's edge. The AIADMK had realized this the hard way when in 2021 assembly elections, its traditional supporters, the Mukkaduthurs who belong to the MBC, protested the internal reservation for the Vanniyar quota. At the same time, parties also realized that the Vanniyars cannot be antagonized considering that they are the largest caste grouping in Tamil Nadu other than the scheduled castes. In fact, Chief Minister M.K. Stalin, soon after coming to power, had assured that a memorial will be built in memory of the 21 agitators who were killed in police firing in 1987. Now, after the Supreme Court's verdict in the case, the DMK stand has been that a nationwide caste census must be conducted so that proportional reservation can be granted for all communities. Caste-based reservations are always fraught with electoral and legal risks. Some quota, like the 3% quota for the Arundhatiyars within the SCs, have passed muster from the top court of the country. But that's not always the case. Against this backdrop, it remains to be seen whether the DMK government can come up with a successful political solution to the demand for a 1-year quota exclusively. On that note, this is D. Suresh Kumar signing off. I shall meet you in another video. Thank you.